Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we'll be showing from the St. Louis Rapid tournament. First there are 3 days of Rapid and then 2 days of Blitz, and it's Maxime Vachier-Lagrave versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov. It's quite the game, so let's check it out. A lot of you have requested the Hikaru Nodirbek game, but I really prefer this one. And also there's another reason why I've chosen this one. Probably those of you who have watched it know the reason. So let's check it out. MVL with white opens with pawn to e4. Nodirbek replies with c5. He goes for the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6 and bishop to b5. The canal attack is on the board. We have knight to d7 blocking check and pawn to d4 striking in the center. We have captures and captures. Now you can capture with the queen. You don't have to worry about any knight to c6 action. Pawn to a6 and the bishop retreats to e2. So bishop to e2 and knight g to f6. Nicely developing. We have knight to c3 and pawn to g6. And we have the immediate pawn to e5 by MVL. D captures on e5, knight captures on e5, and now there is a game where bishop to g7 was played, but here we have knight captures on e5, and it is now already as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So okay, you have to capture back the material, queen captures on e5, and bishop to g7. We have castles kingside by MVL, and bishop to e6. We have rook to d1 going after the black queen, queen to c8, and now bishop to e3, preparing bishop to d4 to put more pressure on this diagonal. We have castles kingside and bishop to d4. So it's not much. You could, by not much I mean it is by far the best move recommended by the engine. But if black wishes, so black can just trade off the dark square bishops. For example, something like knight to e8, queen will go to e3. But even after, for example, a trade happening, captures, white is much faster in doubling up on the d file. So you don't really have a free way of trading pieces. We have rook to d8 and bishop to f3, putting pressure on this diagonal. So queen to c4, now putting pressure on the bishop on d4, and queen to c5, offering a queen trade. We have rook 8 to c8, attacking the queen. Queen captures on c4, rook captures on c4, and now bishop to e3, offering a trade of rooks. We have a trade of rooks, rook captures, and pawn to h5. We have pawn to h3 and pawn to b5. So it's a pretty equal game, bishop pair for both of them, and the only thing that's really different is the situation on the clock. MVL having some 3 extra minutes. We have pawn to a3, stopping pawn to b4, and the bishop to f5, putting pressure on the c2 pawn, but bishop to b7. And this is a very nasty move by MVL, as there's really nothing you can do to counter it. Pawn to b4 is the best reply, but it is not met with what you would expect, just bishop captures on a6, or you would expect that, and you're a very strong player. Rook to c6, attacking the bishop, and now just bishop to b5. And there's no going after the bishop is defended, and also the dark square bishop does a fine job of shouldering off the rook. So b captures on c3. Nodirbek has to go for this exchange sacrifice. Bishop captures and c captures on b2. But okay, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you have a defended passed pawn on b2. We have rook to b1, and now, well, there are many moves you could play here, like knight to d7 definitely makes sense to defend the b2 pawn, and then white will play something like bishop to a4, also having the c2 pawn defended, but not Nodirbek. He goes knight to e8. It's a piece sacrifice, but it also means that you will have to give up the rook on b1, and that is definitely necessary if you are to continue this game. Bishop captures on e8, we have bishop captures on c2, rook captures on b2, and bishop captures on b2, and now pawn to a4. Best would be to play something like bishop to c5 and then bishop to b5 to optimize the positioning of your bishops before advancing the passed a pawn, but a4 is also very, very strong. We have pawn to a4 and now bishop to c3, covering the a5 square, but bishop to b6. We have bishop to d3, not allowing bishop to b5, and now pawn to a5. We have bishop to a6, blocking the pawn, and pawn to g3. We have pawn to e5, and bishop to c6. So it is equal material, both players with the bishop pair, and yeah, 4 pawns each. The only difference is this passed a pawn that MVL can or cannot push, depending on how Nodirbek plays, and the situation on the clock is somewhat alarming for Nodirbek. We have pawn to f5, bishop back to g2, and now king to f7. We have bishop to f1, trying to trade off the bishop. If the light square bishops leave the board, then as you have a5 and a7 guarded, those are dark squares, you can easily advance the pawn to victory. So bishop to b7, and now pawn to a6, chasing away the bishop, bishop to c6, and now pawn to h4. We have king to e7, and bishop to g2. Again, if the light square bishops come off the board, it's game over. King to d6, or rather in this situation not right away, because the king will help out with the advancement of the, or rather against the advancement of the a6 pawn. So king to d6 and pawn to a7. We have pawn to e4, blocking the light square bishop. Now bishop back to f1. We have bishop to a8, and now bishop to c4. The idea, of course, being bishop to f7 followed by elimination of the entire kingside pawn structure. So king to e7, stopping bishop to f7, and now bishop to e3. And there's very little you can do. Bishop to g5 check will kick away the king, and then you either your king either goes so far back that you can just march your king into the game, and slowly but surely play bishop to d5 and trade off the light square bishops, or bishop to f6, stopping bishop to g5. But now you guys, of course, know what's up. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for MVL while I give you a couple of seconds. I'm sure all of you were able to do it, so let's just check it out. The move, of course, is bishop to g5. The very move Nodirbek tried to stop with bishop to f6, but it still wins. There's nothing you can do. Bishop captures and g5 is happening. Or if not, you will just start marching your king up the board, leaving the black king sort of paralyzed on e7. So bishop captures on g5 by Nodirbek. H captures, we have king to f8, and here we have king to f1. MVL starts bringing his king into the game, king e7 and king to e2, and now pawn to f4. The reason for this sacrifice is not just to create a passed h pawn, but also because you're without a move. You can never leave the f7 square unguarded. For example, if you play king to f8, let's say king to e3, king to e7, king to f4, or even better, king to f4, and now you repeat king to f8, king to e5, and now there's nothing to do. King g7, just bishop d5, you trade off the light square bishops, and that's it. So that's why pawn to f4, Maxime calculates properly, g captures on f4, pawn to h4 and king to f1, we have king to d6 and now bishop to f7, and he was in this position on move 49 that Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The g6 pawn will fall, and then you have the two connected passed pawns, and they are of course unstoppable. The bishop can never leave the defense of the a8 square. You also have the passed a7 pawn, easily winning for Maxime. So yeah, beautiful game by Maxime. Like I said, he did incredibly well. I could check. Yeah, these are the standings. I don't know if you guys can see them. Maybe if I do this, I haven't really prepared it. Nah, you can't really see it. But yeah, MVL with 5 points, Levon with 4, Linear with 4, Yanni Pomnici with 4, and then we have with 3 points Nodirbek Abdusattorov, Alireza Firuja, Hikaru Nakamura with 2 points, Wesley So, and with 1 point Pragnananda and Fabiano Caruana. So yeah, very nice start to the tournament for Maxime. We'll see if he can keep it up on day 2 and day 3. And yeah, if you guys have any favorites, do use hashtag suggestion, and I will go over it as soon as possible. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.